All right, so you wanted to take a deep dive on All Quiet on the Western Front by Erich Maria Remarque.
Buckle up.
Yeah, this is a heavy one, but it's worth it.
Definitely a classic and,
That's sure.
one that still resonates almost 100 years later.
Absolutely. And we're going to go way beyond the usual book report stuff.
Right, we're going to look at
You know?
why it shocked people back then.
Yeah.
Why it still matters now.
And get ready for some intense emotions, too.
Yeah, fair warning.
So we're using this excerpt from Wikipedia to guide us.
It's a great overview.
Yeah, it's got all the key details about the plot, the characters, all that good stuff.
It gives some historical context, too.
Yeah, and one thing that jumped out at me right away was the publication date.
1929.
1929, that's like barely 10 years after World War I ended.
Yeah, think about that. The world was still trying to process this massive trauma.
Right.
And then Remarque comes along and just throws you right into the trenches.
It's not your typical war story.
No, it's not about battles and generals and all that.
Right. It's so much more personal.
Yeah, it's about Paul Bäumer and his friends just trying to survive.
Yeah.
And Remarque, he uses this really immediate style, almost like you're inside Paul's head,
Yeah.
experiencing the war right along with him.
The Wikipedia entry does a good job of describing the horrors of trench warfare.
It's brutal.
Yeah. But Remarque goes even deeper. He shows how the trenches themselves become like this character.
Totally.
This oppressive force that just crushes any romantic notions about war.
It's like the trenches are another enemy.
For sure. And then there are the characters.
Oh, they're so vivid.
Yeah, Paul Crop, even their old teacher,
Cantorek.
They're all so well developed.
Each one plays a specific role.
So Paul, he's like our eyes and ears.
Yeah, he's the innocent one thrust into this nightmare.
Khakis the veteran.
The one who's seen it all.
Yeah, but even he can't escape the war's toll.
Right. And then there's Crop, the intellectual.
Yeah, one trying to make sense of the chaos.
Trying to hold on to some shred of reason.
And then you've got Cantorek back home, safe and sound, urging these boys to be heroes.
Talk about out of touch.
Yeah, it's almost like Remarque is using him to make fun of the whole idea of patriotic sacrifice.
Exactly, to show the disconnect between the rhetoric and the reality.
There's this one scene where Paul goes home on leave.
Oh yeah, that's a tough one.
It's heartbreaking. He just can't connect with his family anymore.
It's like he's come back from another planet.
Totally. He's physically there, but mentally he's still in the trenches.
That sense of alienation, it's a major theme in the novel.
And it kind of sets the stage for the controversy surrounding the book.
Oh yeah, it was a huge bestseller.
But it also caused a lot of anger.
Imagine you're in Germany in 1929.
Yeah.
The war is still a fresh wound.
Right.
And suddenly everyone is reading this book that just rips away any illusions of glory.
It challenges the whole idea of war as this noble endeavor.
For people who had lost loved ones.
Yeah.
People who still believed in the cause.
Yeah.
This book felt like a betrayal.
And this was happening during a really turbulent time in Germany.
Right.
The Wikipedia entry mentions that the Nazis actually banned and burned the book.
Yeah, they saw it as a threat.
Yeah, they were trying to build up this image of national unity and military strength.
And Remarque's book just completely undermined that.
It showed the ugliness of war.
The suffering, the disillusionment.
It was dangerous to their ideology.
It's interesting, though.
What's that?
It wasn't just the Nazis who had problems with the book.
Yeah, some people thought it was too graphic.
Too realistic.
Others said it wasn't accurate.
That it didn't represent the experiences of all soldiers.
Well, of course, no single story can capture the entirety of World War I.
That's true.
But what's amazing about All Quiet on the Western Front is that it doesn't try to.
Right.
It focuses on one very specific experience, but in doing so, it taps into these universal truths about the human cost of war.
Absolutely. And that's what makes it so powerful.
And its impact has been huge.
Oh, yeah.
We're talking films, plays.
Even a song by Elton John.
Right. The phrase, all quiet on the Western Front, has become part of our everyday language.
It's not just about war anymore.
It's about any situation where things feel stuck pointless.
Exactly. And that tells you something about how deeply this novel has resonated with people across time and cultures.
For sure. And it's a testament to the power of storytelling.
Absolutely.
Even almost 100 years later, All Quiet on the Western Front still has the power to shock, to move, and to make us think.
It's a timeless classic.
Absolutely.
You know, it's kind of crazy how a phrase from a military report has become this powerful metaphor.
Right, like All Quiet on the Western Front. It's not just about war anymore.
Exactly. It's about any situation where things feel like they're at a standstill.
Yeah, where you're stuck in this rut and there's no end in sight.
And that feeling of being trapped,
Yeah.
that's something Remarque captures so well in the novel.
Oh, absolutely. The psychological trauma those soldiers endure. It's just as devastating as the physical wounds.
For sure. And the Wikipedia entry talks about blind nationalism as a major theme.
Oh, yeah, and Cantorek is like the poster child for that.
He's so gung-ho about the war, sending his students off to die for their country,
And he really believes it too.
which makes it even more tragic.
Yeah, he's completely oblivious to the horrors that await them.
He's a product of that propaganda machine.
Yeah, they were fed all these lies about glory and heroism
And they only realize the truth when it's too late,
when they're knee-deep in mud and blood.
surrounded by death.
There's this one line from Paul that really stuck with me.
Oh yeah, which one?
He says, "We are not youth any longer. We don't want to take the world by storm. We are fleeing from ourselves, from our life."
It's powerful stuff.
Yeah, they've lost their innocence, their hope, their sense of the future.
And that loss, it permeates the entire novel.
But even in the midst of all that darkness, there's this incredible bond between the soldiers.
Absolutely, their camaraderie is what keeps them going.
Kat is like this father figure to Paul.
Yeah, he's got all this practical knowledge. He knows how to survive.
And there's this deep loyalty between Paul Kropp and the others.
They're all they have,
They share everything, their fears, their memories, their dreams.
which makes the losses even more unbearable.
Oh, yeah. Each death chips away at their souls.
Especially Kat's death.
Oh, man, that one hit hard.
He was such a vital character, full of life.
And then in an instant, he's gone.
It's a brutal reminder of how random and senseless war is.
It doesn't care who you are or what you believe in.
And that randomness makes the ending even more powerful.
The fact that Paul dies just weeks before the armistice.
On a day when all quiet on the Western Front.
Yeah, that final line, it's so iconic.
It's not just a description of a quiet battlefield.
It's a commentary on the futility of it all.
Even when the fighting stops, death still claims victory.
And Paul's death after everything he's been through.
It leaves you with so many questions.
Yeah, what was it all for? Did any of it matter?
Remarque doesn't provide any easy answers.
He just forces us to confront the true cost of war.
The scars that linger long after the guns have fallen silent.
It's kind of funny. You know, the Wikipedia entry points out the English title, All Quiet on the Western Front. It's not a direct translation of the German title,
Oh yeah, the literal translation is more like nothing new in the West.
which is actually a line from the book, right?
Yeah, it's a routine military report, just like another day in the trenches.
It's chilling when you think about it.
For sure, like that sense of nothing changing, just endless horror. It became normal for them.
But All Quiet on the Western Front, as a title, it has a different feel to it, you know?
It does. It's more poetic.
Yeah, more haunting.
It captures that silence after a battle, but also that deeper kind of stillness,
Yeah, that emotional exhaustion.
the spiritual emptiness.
And it's become this universal phrase.
Right, we use it for all sorts of situations now.
Anytime things feel stagnant, hopeless.
It's amazing how a title from a simple military report has become such a powerful metaphor for the human experience.
And speaking of impact, we can't forget about the film adaptations.
Oh yeah, there have been some major ones.
3 big ones, each with its own take on the story.
The 1930 version, directed by Louis Milestone, that's considered a classic,
A true classic. It won 2 Academy Awards.
including Best Picture.
And it's still praised for its realism and its strong anti-war message.
Then there's the 1979 television movie with Richard Thomas as Paul.
That one took a more psychological approach.
More intimate.
And it also won a bunch of awards.
And of course, the most recent adaptation from 2022.
Directed by Edward Berger.
That one's been hugely successful.
4 Oscars.
Yeah, and it's a German language film.
Which is interesting, right? Going back to the source.
It's been praised for its really visceral portrayal of the war.
It's like each generation finds something new in this story.
It speaks to the novel's lasting power, you know?
Absolutely. Those themes of fear, loss, disillusionment, they resonate across time and cultures.
They're timeless.
And as we wrap up this deep dive, I keep coming back to that question we asked earlier.
About Paul returning home.
Yeah, how do you bridge that gap between the life you left behind and the person you've become after experiencing such trauma?
It's a question that goes beyond All Quiet on the Western Front, you know?
Right, it applies to all veterans, to anyone who's been through something horrific.
How do we help them find their way back?
Not just physically, but emotionally and spiritually.
It's a tough question.
Remarque doesn't give us any easy answers.
But he forces us to confront the lasting impact of war.
The way it changes individuals, families, entire societies.
And maybe that's the most important lesson here.
War isn't just a date in a history book.
It's a human experience.
One that continues to shape our world and challenge our understanding of ourselves.
For sure.
So if you're interested in exploring this further, I highly recommend checking out the book or one of the film adaptations.
It's a challenging but ultimately rewarding experience.
It will stay with you.
Absolutely.